In this week's news, the world's refugee numbers at all-time high. America mourns after Charleston shooting. And millions impacted by book distribution.
This is InFocus Christian News and Current Affairs.
Hello, welcome to the program. It's great to have you with us. I'm Kent Kingston, and at the news desk is Sibel Coutet. Now, Sibel, have you ever heard the expression circuit riding preacher?
Well, variations of, Kent, variations.
Okay, well, today on the program, we're going to meet a bull riding preacher who's putting together a video series that takes Christianity out of its usual suburban context. Indigenous pastor Emerson sees glimpses of God in the Australian bush and life on the land.
And I understand you'll also be sharing your experiences on babies and parenting, Kent.
Oh, yes. Totally out of my depth there. But luckily, Tracy Fisher is giving the advice. He's our family life educator, so he knows all about it.
The phrase, the blind leading the blind, comes to mind, Kent.
You just might be surprised, Sibel Coutet. Time for the news?
Thanks, Kent. Last weekend's World Refugee Day prompted a number of Australian church organisations to highlight refugee issues and call for compassion. The Churches of Christ produced this video emphasising the biblical responsibility to care for the stranger.
Exodus 23 verse 9 says, "Do not oppress a foreigner. You yourselves know how it feels to be a foreigner, because you were foreigners in Egypt."
Media attention has not been on church actions and statements, however, with a federal Senate inquiry hearing claims of abuse in Australia's offshore migration detention centres and the methods being used in the government's turn back the boats policy coming under scrutiny. Meanwhile, the United Nations reports that there is now a record high of 60 million people around the world who are displaced by war and persecution, a situation that church-based agencies are struggling to manage.
There are more displaced people in the world today than at any time since World War II, and this presents a huge challenge for aid organisations such as ADRA Australia. We need to be able to get in there and help these people and address the underlying issues that is creating these conflicts, these wars that are sending people outside of their own countries.
A pastoral letter on same-sex marriage from Australia's Catholic bishops has sparked an outcry from some who see the document as homophobic and damaging. The document, titled "Don't Mess with Marriage," highlights the unique place of heterosexual unions in culture, religion and biology, and emphasises a child's right to a mother and father, wherever possible. But the letter, which was published online as well as being distributed to Catholic churches and schools, has been described by critics as ignorant propaganda, which is humiliating and degrading. Sydney Archbishop Tracy Fisher has responded to the criticisms, reiterating the Church's rejection of hate and bigotry. Australian of the Year Rosie Batty has spoken out publicly on the links between family violence and alcohol and called for governments to take more effective action on the issue. Ms Batty's 11-year-old son Luke was killed by his father last year, a tragedy leading to Ms Batty becoming a campaigner against domestic violence. Launching a new report by the Foundation for Alcohol Research and Education, Ms Batty said that too often the link between alcohol and violence is ignored.
Alcohol is involved in up to 65% of family violence incidents reported to police.
The Adventist Church is among the community groups that have expressed support for more targeted and effective action on the issue.
The Seventh-day Adventist Church has for long taught an alcohol-free lifestyle, and mainly for health reasons. But we have seen over the many decades that alcohol has an effect on the social, on the women, on the children, and it can have serious social, psychological effect on the people who are affected.
A church community is in deep mourning and a nation is in shock after the shooting deaths of 9 people at a Bible study in Charleston, South Carolina. The attack, which appears to be racially motivated, has reinvigorated national debates about gun control, police violence against African American suspects, and the use of the Confederate flag. But survivors of those who perished in the massacre surprised many observers by expressing their forgiveness towards the gunmen.
Daughter of 70-year-old Ethel Lance.
You took something very precious away from me. I will never talk to her ever again. I will never be able to hold her again. But I forgive you.
A number of media commentators have noted that America's black churches have long been targets for race-based violence. The political situation in the East African country of Burundi appears to be unravelling in the lead-up to a controversial presidential election. According to Adventist Review, more than 100,000 refugees have fled into neighbouring countries to escape the violence and unrest, sparking a humanitarian crisis. The Adventist Development and Relief Agency, or ADRA, is one of the Christian organisations working in the region, together with the United Nations and government agencies. ADRA has provided accommodation and coordinated disease prevention campaigns, and has also distributed food and other emergency supplies to nearly 55,000 people. Christian groups are among the ethnic and religious minorities struggling to find a place in the Southeast Asian country of Myanmar as it moves towards democracy. According to Open Doors USA, ceasefire agreements between the military-dominated government and 16 rebel groups have failed, and a number of armed civil conflicts have continued. Christians from the Chin, Kachin and Karen minority groups say they are being targeted for their faith by the Myanmar military, which has come to associate all Christians with rebel activity. Homes, churches and whole villages have been destroyed, leading to a situation where hundreds of thousands of Christians and other minorities are internally displaced in Myanmar or have escaped into neighbouring countries. Open Doors is calling for prayer. The latest encyclical or official letter from Pope Francis on environmental issues has been controversial even before it was released by the Vatican. In the 180-page encyclical, the Pope returned repeatedly to the words of his namesake, Francis of Assisi, who considered everything in creation as a sister or brother and deserving of special care. Pope Francis used biblical examples to underline that humans themselves are part of nature and that environmental destruction has a disproportionate impact on the world's poor. But his embrace of climate change science has prompted criticism from both inside and outside the Church, with some opponents saying the Pope is not infallible in the scientific arena. In South America, local Adventists are waging spiritual warfare in their own way, distributing books on health and Christian living to 21 million people in just one day. Thousands of church members in 8 countries participated, hitting the streets in various cities with smiles and free giveaways. These kids in Brazil received a warm reception at their local TV station and even got to visit the studio. Thousands of people responded positively to the Health Book Blitz and attended follow-up seminars or accepted the invitation to begin Bible studies. It's not every day that a 1,000-year-old musical style hits the top of the charts, but that's exactly what's happened. The latest album of Gregorian Chants by the Benedictine monks of Norcia in Italy debuted at #1 on Billboard's classical music chart. It does help a bit that the song leader is a trained musician and that the average age of the monks is 33. And that's it for the news this week. Over to you, Kent.
Thanks, Sibel. Stay with us. James Standish is back with a vengeance after the break with Freedom in Focus.
Signs of the Times, a magazine for a world on the brink. And this month in Signs, Is there really a place reserved to burn sinners for eternity? Why your morning ritual may be negatively impacting your health. There are Facebook friends and then there are real-life friends. How the Magna Carta, signed 800 years ago, shaped our world today. All in this month's Signs of the Times. Subscribe to Signs today and change your life.
Hi, welcome back. Well, James Standish is here. Thanks for being with us, James.
It's a pleasure, Ken.
Now, James, this terrible shooting in Charleston, South Carolina has raised a lot of questions, as we heard in the news. But one of those is the issue of gun laws, and you're going to go there today.
Well, I think I have to, and I think we all need to, Ken, because this is something that's happened. It's happened again now, and unless something changes, it's going to happen again. So, at some point, we have to take a step back and say, what is the commonality with all these mass shootings? Well, there's a few different things at play, but one of them is, of course, guns.
Okay. What do you say about the argument that, hey, it's not guns that kill people? There's, thousands, hundreds of thousands of responsible gun owners who don't go around shooting people.
Which, of course,
it's people who kill people.
Which, of course, is partly true, but like a lot of things that are partly true, it's also fundamentally false. Let me just give you an example. Last week, there was another mass killing. It was in Graz, Austria, and in that case, a madman ran his car into a crowd and stabbed people. How many people died? 3. How many people died in South Carolina? 9. Guns kill people far more effectively and efficiently than knives do. That's the reality. So to pretend...
That's what they're designed to do, isn't it?
That's what they're designed to do, and they do it very well.
Yeah.
Similarly, in Sandy Hook, we had 20 children killed very efficiently, very quickly by guns, because guns have the ability to kill far more people, far more effectively, far faster than you can with knives or other things. So to say that guns are that people kill people, not guns, is completely nonsensical. People with guns kill far more people than people without guns, period.
Wow, okay. Well, I mean, America's built on this foundation of, liberty for the common man, and a part of this is the idea that, hey, if a government rises that is tyrannical, if the people have guns, they're going to be able to resist that. Isn't that a reasonable argument?
It's not a reasonable argument. We have Britain, we have Australia, we have New Zealand, we have a whole host of countries, Canada and so forth, where they are not ruled by tyrannical regimes. There's not Saddam Hussein or Adolf Hitler or Joseph Stalin in these countries. Okay? And in addition, if you wanted to take on the US government, it wouldn't be handguns that you'd do it with. You'd have to have missiles and you'd have to have aircraft carriers. If people think that they're going to take on the U.S. government with a few handguns, it's a fantasy. It's ridiculous. You can take on governments, as Nelson Mandela showed, as Gandhi showed, as Martin Luther King showed. You can take them on in a political movement and change the way a democracy goes without resorting to blood in the streets.
Now, James, we have to finish. We're nearly out of time, but just as we finish, there's a perception that Christians in the US are particularly pro-gun, this sort of redneck Republican voting, pickup truck driving gun owners. Would Christians put up with stricter gun laws?
Gallup did a survey of church attendance, right? Church attendees, excuse me. The more often you go to church, the more likely you were to support gun control. Wow. That's not more often you are to call yourself a Christian. That's a whole different thing, because anyone can call themselves a Christian whether they go to church or whether they're not. I just want to say one other thing, though, very, very importantly. The statistics are that for every one person, one criminal stop with a gun, there are 34 people murdered by guns, and there are 78 people who take their own lives.
Wow.
And there are 2 people with guns, and there are 2 people who are killed accidentally. In other words, if you put it all together, for every one criminal stopped by a gun, there's 114 good people killed. It's time to put out the fire, to put our guns away, and to live as a civilized society, and that requires, Ken, it requires, and I appeal to you, for those of you who think that guns are making you safer, they are not. It's a lie. Countries around the world that have strict gun laws are much, much safer. And it's time to put away the guns and to re-embrace brotherhood and civilization.
Wow, James. Well, you've got a lot of passion, but it's a serious issue. So, thanks, so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Ken.
We'll take a short break now. I'll be back in just a second with Family in Focus.
Planning your future can be a daunting task. What you want to do, who you want to be, and the road ahead can often be unpredictable. No one really knows what the future holds. That's just part of what makes it all so amazing. And that's why a great education matters. Because it doesn't just help you get a great job. It helps you prepare for what life can throw at you and live a great life. Avondale. It's education designed for life.
Hello, welcome back, and it's great to have with us again Tracy Fisher, our family life educator.
How are you, Ken? Good to be here.
Yeah.
Good.
Now, Trafford, in the news, just in the last, several weeks, we've seen some tough issue, and it's being billed as the three-parent baby. Can you, get through the hype?
Yeah.
What's the science at the basis of this?
British Parliament just passed it. They were concerned about over 2,500 women in Britain have the potential to pass on serious illnesses, real serious illnesses. And
to their babies?
Yeah, to their babies, okay. And they in turn pass it on further. And this research is supplying them the opportunity to have a healthy baby. Mm-hmm. So what they do is they remove from the mother's egg the nucleus, mm-hmm. which has all the DNA material, mm-hmm. because it's the mitochondria
which is on the outside of the cell.
The outside, no.
So the nucleus itself is not the problem, it's the outside of the cell that's the issue. Okay.
And they're suggesting that it's the mitochondria that carry the disease potential. Mm-hmm. So when a woman has potentially disease-bearing mitochondria or affected mitochondria, they take the nucleus out and take the nucleus also out of a healthy woman's egg, mm-hmm. A woman's healthy egg, and insert the mother's nucleus. Okay. Then they have it fertilised.
So same genetic material?
Yeah.
And then that egg goes on to be fertilised?
By the husband, and it's implanted, and they have a healthy child.
And you have a baby.
Now the issue is, is this science, or, how much do we meddle in the human process of reproduction?
The Catholic Church in the UK and the Church of England they both came out quite strongly against this.
They're asking for more time. They just feel as if this is a bit too risky. And one of the issues is, how true is it that mitochondria doesn't have a say on personality? Mm. Does in fact mitochondria,
clearly you're passing on this this disease-free attribute. I guess the question is, what other attributes are coming along with it?
Yeah, because the science is suggesting that the mitochondria don't have anything to do with personality or character, but there seems to be some debate in the scientific world about that. Okay. Maybe that's not quite.
Well, my question is, Trafford, what happens when this kid down the track suddenly realises that, there was a third person involved in my conception? Don't I have a legal right to know about that?
And that will have to be resolved.
Yeah.
But that's true for adopted children.
Sure.
Or for heart transplant recipients, liver transplant. How much I guess it's the DNA component that really brings that to the fore.
Yeah, we have legal frameworks for those things, but not for this one, and that's the challenge, isn't it?
It needs some more. I think it's a real watch this space, but I respect the concern. This is a concern about how much do we control. Yeah.
Boy.
Tough territory.
Yeah, well, as you say, Trafford, watch this space.
Yeah.
Who knows where it could lead. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for your time today.
Thanks.
We'll be back straight after the break.
Planning your future can be a daunting task. What you want to do, who you want to be, and the road ahead can often be unpredictable. No one really knows what the future holds. Avondale. It's education designed for life.
Well, I'm really excited to have someone I've looked up to for a while in the studio with me today, and that is Pastor Johnny Emerson. How are you, Johnny?
I'm going well, thanks, Kent.
Excellent. Now, you used to live around here in the Sydney region, but you've gone back to your home country out there in North Queensland. Is that right?
Yes. I've been in Sydney for 10 years previously, and this year got a call to minister in Cairns, Mosman, and Weeper.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. Now, even before you went up there, you started working on this project, which I think is still happening, and that's the Sacred Messages Down Under video series.
Yes.
How's that going?
Oh, excellent. A 10-episode series. The audience was initially for Indigenous people, and we had that in background, Australiana themes, Aboriginal cultural themes. Yeah, and it's connected with a lot of Indigenous people. At the moment we've got 9 episodes out, ready to use and to buy, and number 10 is being edited right now and should be finished in a couple of months.
I have actually seen the first episode, which is I guess you sort of paint yourself, well, you don't paint, you really are a horse whisperer. Is that the...
I don't know about a horse whisperer.
I know training horses is a very political thing, so I don't want to use the wrong language and have you punch me or something, but you decide to use a more gentle sort of style of breaking in a horse, as people say, to train it to take a saddle and everything. Is that something you've done many times before?
To be honest, I haven't really done it that often. I've broken a few horses in, and I don't know, I just kind of have a little bit of a gift for it. But I've watched a lot of my uncles, my dad, break them in and interact with them, and so I just learnt from watching. I've got a lot of good mates who are horsemen as well. So I wouldn't definitely call myself a horse whisperer, but definitely a horseman.
Yeah. But the style of training you used is more of a gentle sort of relational style rather than a dominant sort of style, isn't it? And that's, I guess, some of the politics that comes with, with horsemanship. You chose that gentle style. Why?
Number one, I think I've just got the hands for it, and it is the better way to get better response from your horse. Yeah, I like that one because you're building up trust, and they're more responsive.
Yeah. So you there like training this horse on camera and everything, but you used that as a sort of a metaphor to understand, I guess, something about us and God. Was that where you were heading?
Yeah, that's right. The analogy was that this horse that was unbroken, living a life all by herself with her other ponies in the scrub, and so we go and grab this horse, start to win her over with trust and talking to her nicely and day by day handling. Yeah, and so basically I knew this horse was afraid of me, and that with a bit of time and care and building up that trust, that she will eventually wouldn't distrust me, that she'd become my friend. So that episode we titled Afraid or a Friend.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in regards to, I guess, the way God connects with us, are you suggesting that God uses a similar gentle approach? Because I guess a lot of people have an idea of an angry God, a God who's going to punish you, the God with the stick, the God with the riding crop and the spurs.
Yeah, so that's the message we're trying to get across, that is definitely what God is like. Yeah, he's definitely taken the more gentle approach. I think there are times when he's going to have to use discipline on us who are really disobedient.
But those whom I love I discipline, isn't that what the Bible
says? That's right. Yeah. So we wanted to bring that metaphor across to say that's exactly what God is like. He's not someone to be afraid of, he's someone to be a friend of. And even when Judas betrayed Jesus, he said, "Friend, do what you've come to do." Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Now I noticed that another episode is called Boomerang Man.
Yep.
And you connect Jesus. Are you calling Jesus the Boomerang Man? Or what's going on with that?
The episode starts off with me throwing a boomerang. We're out at Uluru.
Oh yeah.
Filming this one, and so throw a boomerang, and comes back to me.
Oh, there you go.
I catch it.
It's always nice when that happens on camera, when it actually comes back.
That's right. If it doesn't come back to you, it's just a stick.
That's right.
So I catch this boomerang, and and I just say that this boomerang is like Jesus. As this boomerang came back and returned to me, Jesus is the returning boomerang man. He's coming to take us back home to be with him forever. And people are just loving the analogies, of Aboriginal culture and of the outback, with stock and stuff like that. You know.
What does that say about people? Because I mean, a lot of Christian television, let's face it, is like this, sitting in nice, pristine studios with, suits on and that sort of stuff. But you seem to have really connected with people in a different way. What sort of responses are you getting?
Well, I was in Mossman the other day and I lent out Boomerang Man.
That's real Mossman in North Queensland, not Mossman in Sydney.
Not Mossman Sydney, Mossman, North Queensland, and I gave it to a family that I'm actually related to, and they said, I really, really like the cultural aspects that you're bringing through to tell us the story about God's love and about God's plan for our life. and so they're connecting with it. And so, I mean, obviously the primary audience was Indigenous, but it's just gone bigger, and people all over the world are watching it and loving it.
Oh, really?
And so non-Indigenous are buying them as well, buying the series, and connecting with it, loving it, because who doesn't love a story?
Yeah. Do you think, I mean, I guess Christianity in some ways, we could say it came on a boat, you know, with a couple of Church of England chaplains. And for some Australians, it's maybe still seen as a foreign religion and not an Australian spirituality. Do you think it's important that Australians sort of own the Bible and own spirituality and Christianity for themselves?
Oh, definitely. Aboriginal people are already spiritual people, you know.
Sure, yeah.
So when Jimmy Cook came and and all his crew, they didn't bring God to the shores, you know. God was already here in our culture, in our belief system. There are a lot of Aboriginal people who, you know, against Christianity, they see it as a white man's religion, but then there are those who...
A colonial artifact, essentially, yeah.
And so they see the truth in Christianity, see the truth of God's word, the truth in Jesus, and knowing that he's coming back again. So there are a lot of those, a lot of our people who still worship him, love him, and there are some who lost their way, and this series is a good thing just to reintroduce them to families and to get them back to the study of the word and having family worship together, just watching the DVD or whatever, and having a yarn about it afterwards and what they liked and what they got out of it.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
So it's working in that regard. Yeah.
It's really good to hear. And okay, so if you're interested in getting hold of that series, the website is the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Ministries Department of the Adventist Church.
Yep, atsim.org.
Atsim.org. Well, that was easy. So check that out.
And go to resources.
Yeah, there's some resources there, and all the episodes are listed. Hey, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it, Johnny.
No worries, Kent.
We'll see you after the break.
Travel back in time to ancient civilizations through this bi-monthly magazine, Archaeological Diggings. This month, Diggings goes inside the amazing burial mound at Amphipolis in Greece, a site to rival the tomb of King Tut. But who is buried there? We look at the claim that Jesus' bodily remains have been unearthed, along with those of his family. And we also bring you the latest news from the fascinating world of archaeology. Don't miss an issue. Subscribe online or ask for Archaeological Diggings at your local newsagent.
Well, I guess that's it for this week.
Yeah, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget, each segment of the program is available to watch again or share online. The web address hasn't changed, record.net.au.
And we'd love you to stay in touch via email, Facebook or Twitter.
Yeah, please do. We'll see you next time on Record in Focus.
God bless.